Welcome to this new episode of SimRacingZone Virtual Studio. Today we talk about the Canadian Grand Prix valid for the Eurogamer Assetto Corsa Championship, which took place 2 weeks ago. The track in Montreal always gives a nice atmosphere, thanks to the typical grey sky and has the always-on track duels. Let's analyze what happened with the highlights prepared by our Gianfranco Giglioli.
The race start has been the cleanest of the whole championship, as all the drivers managed to avoid any sort of contact through the first corners, unlike what we have previously seen in the first 2 rounds. David Greco managed to keep the lead despite Eniel Sabti tried to get past him round the outside and the second corner, while all the other drivers focused on keeping the car on track, avoiding collisions right at the game position. The only driver among the front runners who managed to get some position was Jack Hitley, who got past Matila and Montereale. The first accident of the race happened after a few corners and only involved some drivers at the back of the pack. A little contact between Giacomo Brzezinski and Pierre Potel caused the latter to spin, involving Nicolas Hillebrand and Josh Martin, but it was a very low speed accident, so none of the drivers got any serious damage. At the end of the first lap, David Greco is in the lead, followed by Eniel Sabti, Massimo Massetti, Jacopo Ciarco, Thomas Statila, Jack Hitley, Francesco Montereale, Amos Lavito, Rami Matila and Kevin Siggy. By the beginning of the second lap, we had the first twist of the race. Jacopo Ciarco tried to get past Massetti at the inside of the first corner, but as soon as the maneuver succeeded at a little collision, which was enough to make the Polish driver spin and hit the wall, resulting in the Feder Ragnar simulator driver to drop back to the 19th place, while Massetti had to miss the first 2 corners in order not to lose the control of his car. After a few seconds to the other fast and aged driver Francesco Montereale was involved in a contact too. He didn't realize that Amos Lavito had managed to get alongside him, so the Transmaster white driver was squeezed between the rival and the wall and wouldn't do anything to avoid hitting both the wall and Montereale. The latter had almost no consequence at all, while Amos Lavito, after a spin, were forced to let all the other drivers pass and dropped from 7th to 15th position. Al-Sabti and Tatila had to settle down for the second place, but the duel was the most interesting event of the first part of the race. The Finnish Supernova racing driver decided to start the race with soft tires, so he had a performance advantage over his rival, who opted for the medium compound. At the beginning of the 9th lap, Thomas Tatila tried an overtaking maneuver around the outside of the first corner, but the Dutch Transmaster black driver keeps his racing line and forces his rival to withdraw his attempt. If during the Mexican Grand Prix David Greco seemed to be at too much cautious in some situations, here in Canada he completely changed his attitude, turning himself in the real ace that all sim racing enthusiasts are used to see and imposing a pace that none of his opponents could sustain. 3 laps later, the Supernova racing driver tried again the same maneuver, but once again Eniel Sabti managed to keep the second position with a great composure. While David Greco was improving his leadership, gaining almost 1 second per lap, Thomas Statila committed a mistake at the 15th lap, going into a spin at the exit of the hairpin and hitting the wall with his front wing. While his car was still stuck in the middle of the track, he was hit by Jack Hitley, who eventually ended into the grass, and both him and Tatila were passed by Massimo Massetti, who took the 3rd place, while Hitley and Tatila rejoined the track in 4th and 5th place respectively. Despite having taken a serious amount of damage to his car, Thomas Statila not only managed to stay on the track, but he was also able to keep up with Hitley's pace, as if a bent rear wheel didn't represent so much of an issue for him. During the 28th lap, the Supernova racing driver took his 4th place back thanks to Hitley going on oversteer at the exit of turn 7, while at the following lap, Kevin Siggy, who started the race with soft tires, goes past Montereale and gained the 6th place. At the 30th lap, Thomas Statela was the first front runner to make his pit stop. He decided to put on medium tires and not to repair his car, because if he did so he wouldn't ever had a possibility to keep Keatley behind. The Scuderia Leone driver made his stop 3 laps later, and he rejoined the track just behind the Finnish Supernova Racing driver. They were virtually in 5th and 6th position. All the other front runners decide to pit between the 35th and 37th lap, and this does not produce any important position change. The only ones who tried a different strategy were Amos Laurito and the 2 Fiedler Ragnar simulator drivers. The first goes in the pit at the end of the 42nd lap to put soft tires, while Jakub Brzezinski and Jakub Charkot decide to cover the whole race distance with soft tires without making any pit stops at all, so that Brzezinski made up to the 3rd place and Charcot recovered up to the top 10 after the contact with Massetti during the 2nd lap. After the pit stop, the leadership of David Greco was so safe that only a problem or an error could put it in jeopardy. And indeed, at the 43rd lap, it almost happened. While approaching the apex of the first corner, the Italian driver missed the gear shift and spins, hitting Pierre Potel, who was about to let David lap him. This contact fortunately caused no damage to Greco's car, and he only lost 7 seconds. His leadership is still safe. At the 45th lap, we have another major twist of the race. After a fantastic battle for the 80th place, which lasted almost a whole lap, George Martin and Sylvain Delay had a collision and spin occupying the whole track. Massimo Massetti, who was about to lap them, can do anything to avoid hitting Martin, and as a result of the collision, his car crashing in the guardrail, forcing him to retire from the race, while he was comfortably keeping a great 3rd place. Some laps later, George Martin was disqualified from the race by the race direction, as the accident involving Villet and, most importantly, the 3rd place driver Massimo Massetti was deemed to be his fault. The first 3 places were already decided, as David Greco, Daniel Sapti and Jakub Brzezinski were very distant from each other, but the fight for the 4th place between Thomas Statela, Jack Kitley and Kevin Siggy was more open than ever. After a risk to hit his rival more than once, Kevin Siggy managed to take the 5th position, overtaking Jack Kitley at the 54th lap, and at the following lap he gets past even Thomas Statela and he takes the 4th place. At the 60th lap, Kitley took the 5th place with a wonderful overtaking maneuver on Statela at the inside of the turn 6, but then, with only 2 laps, the lift posted all the good things he did before with a spin at the first chicane, allowing Thomas Statela to take the 5th place back. Despite the spin at the 43rd lap, David Greco managed to get a clean and comfortable victory, crossing the finish line with more than 25 seconds of gap from the 2nd place driver Daniel Sapti and lapping every driver by 3. Sapti had anyway all the reason to smile, because with this result he made a huge step forward on his way to win the championship. Jakub Brzezinski got an outstanding 3rd place after managing to complete the whole race without making a single pit stop and with soft tires too. The 4th place was taken over by Kevin Siggy, who proved once again to be a very smart and consistent driver strategy-wise, while Thomas Statela had to settle down for the 80th place due to a penalty, a result which does not help him to keep alive his chances to fight for the title. Jack Kitley crossed the finish line in a good 5th place after the penalty given to Thomas Statela, while the top 10 was completed by Amos Laurito, who made an interesting comeback after a contact with Monterreale at the 2nd lap, then Jakub Charcot, Thomas Statela, Rami Matila and Francesco Monterreale. David Greco starting from the front row with a best time blow at the last second. 2nd place for Daniel Sapti, followed by Massimo Massetti in 3rd place, then Jakub Charcot, Thomas Statela, Francesco Monterreale, Rami Matila, Jack Kitley, Luigi Di Lorenzo, Amos Laurito, and then all the others.
And now the nVidia moment and the Sparco Show.
The nVidia moment of today goes to Jack Italy, who made the great overtaking on Totila, an unusual point of the track, while others had mostly tried to pass to the first corner after the finish line. Well done. In this episode we have two Sparco Show. The first to reward excellent performance and race management of David Greco, first practically from the start to finish of the race. Truly a good race for him. The second Sparco Show goes to the complete mastery of the vehicle by Kevin Siggy, who delighted us in his first races with good strategies, good passes, and here has resumed many times the car when it seemed he had lost control. Very impressive. This is the driver's standings after the third Grand Prix. At the first place, the Dutch driver of Trustmaster Black, Daniel Sapti, with 134 points. Second place for Jakub Charcot of Feder Ragnar Simulator with 104 points. Third place for Tuomas Statila of Supernova Racing with 100 points. First place for Kevin Siggy of Magenta Warriors Racing Team with 94 points. Fifth place for Brzezinski, the other driver of Feder Ragnar Simulator with 78 points. Sixth place for David Grego of Trustmaster White with 70 points. And then all the others. This is the constructor standings after 3 races. As we can see, the consistency in going to points and on the podium by the two pilots of Feder Ragnar Simulator pays. In fact, the two Polish drivers leading the constructor standings with 182 points, followed by Trustmaster White to 150, then to the third place the Trustmaster Black with 143, fourth Supernova Racing to 124, then fifth Magenta Warriors to 106, and sixth Scuderia Leone with 105 points, and then all the other teams.
We have seen that the drivers who were initially attracting attention did not betray the expectations. Daniel Sapti, confirming a constancy, cool head and good driver skill, is now committing almost no errors. For his part, Tuomas Statila tried to undermine his rival with an excellent speed qualities, since committed many errors. Significant were also the excellent performance of Kevin Siggy, who delighted us with good strategies and good controls. Then, if we want to talk about teamwork, then we cannot mention the work of the Polish Feder Ragnar Simulator team. Jakub Brzezinski and Jakub Charcot, in fact, they did a great job in terms of Constructors' Championship. Very good the last two performances of David Greco. Unfortunately, the mistake that he made with Masetti in Mexico, it cost him precious points to aspire to the title. He was not at all annoyed the race in Montreal, full of twists, contests and duels. The season stick and tell is because we are just at half. We just have to follow the next Grand Prix in England at Silverstone. So, it's all for today. Thank you for being with us and don't miss the next round. Stay tuned.